about it. Every country's had a violent revolution for one reason or the other. Not one of them has the freedom we're all talking about. So we're saying give peace a chance, like nobody's ever done it before. And it's not a matter of, we're not thinking in terms of 10 years, we're thinking in terms of peace forever, And everybody's talking about now. I want peace now. We can get peace now if we want it now. And the left wing talk about giving the power to the people, Anybody knows that the people have the power. All we have to do is awaken the power in the people.
More than a singer, more than just a man, with the voice of a revolution. John Lennon, he was a man of peace who used his fame and songwriting abilities to gather society to protest against the Vietnam War. He was able to inspire a nation and open the eyes of thousands so that one day everyone would be able to see a world without war. He was passionate, determined, and fought for what he believed in.
John Lennon was born on October 9, 1940. He was raised by his aunt in Liverpool, United Kingdom. As he grew up, he found he had a desperate love for music and art. When he met Paul McCartney in 1957, the two of them became the founders of one of the most famous pop bands throughout history, the Beatles. The group of four, Ringo Starr, George Harrison, McCartney, and Lennon, came together in 1960, striking the front covers of newspapers and magazines and consuming news networks all around the globe. Their music became more and more popular, leading them to be considered by some critics as the most innovative, emulated, and successful music groups of the 20th century. While their albums and songs dominated the charts, their hairstyles, fashion, and drug culture created a paradigm of controversy, causing their phenomenal fame to be dubbed Beatlemania. In 1970, the Beatles officially split up after Lennon left the group, leaving millions of fans devastated. Earlier the year before, Lennon married Yoko Ono, a Japanese multimedia artist. Many people blamed Ono for the band split up. However, Lennon claimed that this was not true.
As a Beatle, we made it, and there was nothing to do. We had money, we had fame, and there was no joy.
The two of them had a very passionate love for each other and felt that they were different from the rest of the world. They shared a strong desire for world peace. In 1955, Vietnam, a Southeast Asian country, started facing political difficulties. The North had a communist leader, Ho Chi Minh. His power began to overthrow all things fair, and the South found themselves in a war. During Nixon's first term, he increased the war effort, escalating our involvement in the war.
I hope someday you'll join us.
The war devastated the United States, and in outrage, protesters were beginning to riot. Lennon and Ono preached that peace can be gotten by peace, and the two of them protested in peaceful manners. Lennon used his songwriting ability to create songs to stand against the war. Songs such as Give Peace a Chance and Imagine were directed towards political events going on during the time period. They spoke out a message of hope and outlined a world where there is no war. They also were involved in organizing anti-war marches. Lennon and Ono also hosted bed-ins. Bed-ins are long periods of time where people do not leave their beds until their point is proven. The whole concept of bed-ins seems fairly odd, a rather ironic way to take a stand. But because Lennon and Ono had so much fame, it quickly sent out their message. In 1969, Lennon and Ono hosted bed-ins in Amsterdam and Montreal for over 2 weeks each. They invited the global press into their rooms to discuss peace for 12 hours each day. They spent this time discussing topics about peace and the war and encouraged everyone and anyone to join them. Videos and pictures of the bed-ins were broadcasted all over the media. While some people were amused by this tactic, others expressed great hostility. John Lennon also stood against the Vietnam War by returning one of the most honorable awards he had ever received from the Queen of England, the MBE. Having the MBE meant he was a member of the most excellent order to the British Empire. He returned his award back to the Queen on November 25, 1969, upon learning about England's involvement in the Vietnam War.
Lennon's impact on society during the war was very impressive. Fans all over were asking for peace and used him as their inspiration. During the anti-Vietnam March that took place in Washington in 1969, 500,000 protesters chanted "Give Peace a Chance" as their main anthem. Lennon said it was one of the biggest moments in his life. The word was getting out that people didn't approve of the U.S. being involved in the war. Upon arriving in New York in 1971, Lennon met with radical anti-war activists, which caused alarm with the Nixon administration. The 1972 election would be the first time 18-year-olds had the right to vote. Historian John Weiner explains, "Everybody knew that the young people were the strongest anti-war constituency. So the question was, for Lennon, how could he use his power as a celebrity to get young people into the political process?" Lennon was planning on being a part of a national concert tour aimed at mobilizing young people to oppose Nixon. Senator Strom sent a memo to the White House warning that John Lennon might combine rock music with politics and organize young people to vote against Nixon in the 1972 election. Lennon became a real threat to President Nixon's re-election. The FBI spent over 4 years determined to deport him. They had gathered over 300 pages of information on Lennon. Finally, on March 1st, 1972, the Immigration and Naturalization Service used a 1968 marijuana possession misdemeanor conviction to bring deportation charges against Lennon. Lennon's lawyers stated that he had never seen the government so determined to remove anyone from the U.S. Fans all over the country couldn't bear to see him leave, including nearly 200 artists and celebrities who wrote letters to the FBI begging for Lennon to stay. Lennon would sit on a 60-day deportation order for over 2 years thanks to his talented legal help. In the end, President Nixon listened to the people, and in 1975, he pulled out all the U.S. troops from the Vietnam War, leading the protesters to a victory and the South Vietnamese to a loss. Society was able to speak their minds and had gotten what they'd been working so hard for.
Washington officials say the final evacuation of Americans from South Vietnam has been ordered. The White House has declined comment, but unofficial, although reliable reports say U.S. helicopters will ferry Americans to Navy ships off the South Vietnamese coast.
According to the FBI, they were able to successfully neutralize John Lennon, a term they used to mean that they silenced him, stopped him from further political activism. With his lawyer's advice, Lennon canceled his involvement in the national concert tour and withdrew from anti-war activity. However, one could argue that Lennon had an immeasurable impact on society during the time he was taking a stand against the Vietnam War. In these few short years, he was able to inspire and encourage people to stand up and vote, march, preach, sing, do whatever one could do to spread peace throughout the world. He used his fame and voice as a weapon to the war and protested peacefully to get his message out. And even after the government had effectively silenced him, his songs have continued to play on and in the hearts of so many, echoing down the streets and ringing through the prominent halls of government buildings all over the world. His message was to give peace a chance. Lennon was shot dead at his New York City apartment on December 8, 1980, by a mentally unstable fan by the name of Mark David Chapman. Many years before, Lennon had once described the Beatles to be bigger than Jesus. This particular fan was very religious and held this against Lennon for years. Regardless of the various controversies that surrounded him, Lennon will continue to be remembered for his inspiring actions and as a man of peace. To this very day, we can all turn on our radios or our televisions to hear Lennon's melodic words promoting the ideals of peace. As Lennon hoped for, and as we all hope for, eventually the world will be as one.